Excitement levels were high. I'd started the day off with a great morning at Loch Lomond. The weather was just cold and crisp with the sun shining, and I was still just at the beginning of my trip, and now I was heading into the real heart of the landscape photographer's dream, Glencoe. And I had every reason to be excited. As you head from Glencoe from Loch Lomond, you definitely see a difference in the landscape appearing. The road begins to stretch out. The mountains become larger and more magical. Phone reception becomes obsolete and the problems of life just disappear. I stopped by Loch Tulla for some tea and lunch. It sits right next to the road to Glencoe with plenty of parking. The middle of the day isn't generally ideal for shooting landscapes, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't. I took a brief walk along the edge of the loch and was immediately drawn to these unusual ice formations. The lines in the ice reminded me of the contours found in the OS maps that we all love to use, and also lent themselves to great leading lines for a shot. What I was looking at was this nice bit of ice that's just coming down the embankment into the loch, and it's got these nice lines in it that are guiding the eye round this kind of curved bank and then up into the distance. That's the idea. Anyway, what I've done, low down, portrait. I've got the polarizer on just to knock back all that kind of reflections and stuff. Soft grad on to bring down the sky. Lens wise, I've gone for my Samyang 12mm. Now that is designed for a crop sensor. It will fit this A7R2 because it's still an E-mount fitting, but it won't fill the whole frame. Basically, that means that I can use this in crop mode. I just won't get the amount of megapixels, which doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, I want to get a full frame equivalent wide angle lens, but you know, that's more money when I could just use that for the time being. It seems to give quite a good coverage actually without having to crop the image too much. Anyway, so that was an extra hassle, and it's a manual lens. I mean, I always focus manually anyway, so we're going to do some focus stacking, foreground, midground, distance, and then I'll blend them together in Photoshop. I've just got to take the image now for the distance, and then we will have our lovely image. I really enjoyed Loch Tulla, but I had spent way more time than I'd realised there. I had unwittingly made my first mistake. One of the locations I really wanted to visit while in Scotland was Glencoe, and I'd visited Glencoe briefly the year before and had climbed one of the mountains on the corner of Glencoe and Loch Leven called the Pap of Glencoe. It was because I had already visited the top of this mountain that I decided to head back to it. I knew it offered amazing views from Loch Leven around to the Three Sisters. I also had in mind that it only took about an hour to climb to the top. This was my second mistake. Man, am I hot and sweaty. But there's a reason I'm hot and sweaty, and that's because I'm climbing a mountain, not just any mountain though. I am in, of all places, the beautiful Glencoe. The village of Glencoe is just down there, Loch Leven, and then the beautiful vista behind us. And yeah, plan. So the plan is I'm climbing a mountain called the Pap of Glencoe. There's probably a proper Scottish name for it, but I call it Pappy. And if we look up here, this bit here, there we go, that bit there is the top, and that's where I'm heading. And that's going to give me some, I mean, it already looks pretty nice from here, but even nicer views from up there. Whew, let's get going. As I headed up, I could see the weather moving in. I didn't want to let that stop me though. I am by nature optimistic, and when it comes to landscape photography, I think it's quite a needed quality. I was determined to reach the top and capture the sunset across the mountains. Perhaps that was my third mistake. The further up the mountain you climb, the less you want to turn back. I knew I wasn't as near the top as I'd thought I would be at this point, but regardless, I just kept going. I was lying to myself about the realistic outcome of this endeavour. This, I would say, was my fourth mistake. Nearly there, man. This is tougher than I remember, but I'm going to blame the backpack there for the extra slowness, the extra time it's taken, but you can't really see from here, but amazing views. This is hard work. The top of Pap is 750 meters above sea level, and I started at pretty much 0, so it's quite an elevation to go up, and it's from memory, because I did this about 18 months ago, from memory I found it a lot easier and did it quicker. That's why I came up again. I thought, oh, it's a nice easy one to break into, but no, I forgot the steep inclines and twists and turns that go on, but there we go. Oh, right, I just got to get to the top now. Nearly there, nearly there. I was almost at the top. The weather by now was just bleak, and because of that, the light was dying fast. I had all these expectations of myself that I just didn't want to admit defeat to. Climbing to the very top of the mountain, capturing an amazing sunset, flying this drone that I'd lugged all the way to the top, and enjoying the whole hike. I'm saying one thing to the camera here, but inside I was just feeling pretty low. All this hard work I'd put into this hike just felt like a waste. All I could think to myself was, why do I even bother? I might as well just stayed at home. I was tired, hungry, dripping with sweat, and the last thing I wanted to do was to have to record any more video or take any pictures. I was just full of frustration and fed up, so I just gave up. I turned around and walked back down. All I kept saying to myself was, why do I even bother? All that effort and just nothing. Absolutely nothing to show for it. As I walked back down and the evening drew in, the lights from the village of Glencoe started to twinkle. The thought of coming away with nothing kept nagging at me. So I stopped. I got my camera out, put it on the tripod, and took a panorama. When things go wrong, we all get caught up in the moment and wonder why we bother. It's a human thing. It's only afterwards we can reflect. And looking back now, I know why I did bother, even though it went all wrong. I bothered because if I didn't, I wouldn't have a story to tell, an experience to learn from, and in this case, a photograph full of memories. I stopped recording halfway through because it is just a fight trying to take a picture, let alone talk about it and video it at the same time.